Islands can be very interesting places. With them being disconnected and or isolated from other landmasses, they can sometimes offer unique situations. Just look at the likes of the Galapagos Islands, Socotra Island, or the entire country of Madagascar. Some 37% of the flora and fauna on Socotra Island is endemic, 80% in the Galapagos, and an unbelievable 90% on Madagascar. But sometimes it's not the islands where there are diverse and rare animals. It's the ones where one particular type of animal has essentially taken over, like for example Tashirojima Island in Japan, which has a very interesting story. So in the 1940s the island had a bit of a rodent problem. To combat this, the residents introduced a lot of cats. The cats bred like rabbits and their numbers skyrocketed. But if we skip forward to today, the human population has dropped, but the cat population has only increased, meaning cats easily outnumber humans. Cats roam freely around the island in great numbers, meaning many tourists flock to the island to witness this feline takeover. Now, an island which most certainly is not visited by humans in such numbers is Ramri Island in Myanmar, which has been taken over by a very different type of animal. The animal is certainly not as friendly or perhaps cute as our previous. So during World War II, British forces were fighting the Japanese on the ground in Myanmar, which at the time was British Burma. The Brits won the battle and forced around 1,000 Japanese troops to retreat to Ramtree Island in the west of the country. However, little did these injured and weakened Japanese troops know that they'd be retreating into a heavily densely populated crocodile-infested mangrove region. Although numbers are unreliable and quite unknown, it's believed that the majority of the soldiers were killed and eaten by the crocs. This event is often cited as being perhaps the single most deadliest crocodile attack in history. Alright, let's now move on to a more light-hearted island. Well, that's if you can even call it that. So this is Rockall Islet, found in the northeast Atlantic Ocean, and believe it or not, there is great controversy over the ownership of this barren rock. But why exactly? What importance does it have? Well, the uninhabited Granite Islet has competing territorial claims by the UK, Ireland and Denmark. Basically, whoever owns this rock has exclusive rights in the surrounding waters, extending up to 200 nautical miles. This would provide control over valuable resources such as gas, oil and fishing rights. The UK annexed the rock in 1955 as it was unclaimed at the time. However, this annexation isn't recognised by Ireland or Denmark, hence the territorial disputes. This is Henderson Island, one of the most remote places on Earth. It is uninhabited and belongs to the Pitcairn Island group, an overseas territory of the UK. At first glance, it looks like a pretty nice tropical island with white sand and palm trees, right? However, if you add the word trash to the end of your Google search, it reveals the real reason why I've mentioned it in today's video. Due to the isolated geographical position that the island finds itself in, it accumulates a lot of trash that's been transported across the planet by the currents of the oceans. Add this to the fact that the island is uninhabited and extremely hard to access, it means that no one is there to clean up the mess. Unfortunately, resulting in the beaches of the island being swarmed with all kinds of plastic from around the world. Our next island thankfully is inhabited and doesn't have the same trash problem. However, they do have a very different problem, a problem that could potentially destroy the island and the people living there. So this is Aogashima Island in Japan. Similar to our previous island, it is very remote. It is found some 350 kilometers directly south of Tokyo within the Philippine Sea. But what makes the island so special is that it is volcanic, and within the volcanic caldera is where the island's 170 or so population lives. The last eruption took place in 1785, and ever since the volcano has lay relatively dormant, although still officially classed as active. Now, there are plans in place if the volcano does erupt, which mainly consists of transporting its entire population across the nearby islands via boat and helicopters. As the island is made up out of volcanic soil and found in a tropical region, it is covered with lush green vegetation, subtropical plants and has steep cliffs with incredible ocean views. The only thing that keeps this place off most people's radars is the extreme remoteness of it, meaning tourists very rarely visit. Next up we have the Isle of Sark, an island found within the Channel Islands just off the coast of France, in between Jersey and Guernsey. Although being relatively close to France, the island belongs to the UK, although it is self-governing. Now, the island is rather tranquil and picturesque. It's very green and hilly. In the summer especially, it's a very nice place to be. But why is the island made today's video? As nice as it looks, there's nothing eye-catchingly stand out about it, right? Well, there's one thing in particular that makes the island quite unique. Cars are outlawed on the island. The population of 500 or so primarily move around the island by either walking or cycling. There is also horse and carriage too. The ban has been in place since 1905 and was implemented to preserve its natural beauty, maintain its historical character, and minimise environmental impacts. Now, with the island being small, narrow, and quite hilly, roads, cars, and traffic wouldn't be suitable on such an island, meaning the ban makes complete sense. Travelling across the world over to the Tasman Sea, we arrive at our next island, Ball's Pyramid. So Ball's Pyramid is found off the east coast of Australia and is home to the tallest volcanic stack on Earth, which measures some 572 metres high, giving this incredible looking view. The island was discovered in 1788, but it wasn't for almost 100 years later that any human would step foot onto it, primarily due to its remoteness and the roughness of the seas that surround it. The island itself is quite barren and almost void of plant life due to the extreme steepness and harsh environment. Speaking of barren, next up is an island with that exact name, Barren Island, found in the Indian Ocean. Now, other than being a rather spectacular looking place, what makes the island so special? Well, it's believed to be the only active volcano on the Indian subcontinent. The island is found within the Andaman Sea, a couple of 100 kilometers west of Myanmar. Being found within the Andaman Islands, the region belongs to India. So the volcano has erupted 4 times since 1991, with its most recent being in 2005. This is believed to have been triggered by the 2004 Sumatra Boxing Day earthquake. Of course, no one lives on the island, nor is anyone permitted to visit. The island is only home to a few species of animals such as goats and some rodents. The waters surrounding the island, however, are teeming with life due to the constant geothermal activity. Now, whilst we're in the Andaman Islands, it'd be rude to not speak about one of the most notorious islands on Earth. It's well documented, so I'll only briefly mention it. So, North Sentinel Island is a rather internet-famous island found just west of the main Andaman Islands chain, and is famously home to an unknown amount of somewhat unconnected people. Estimates range from 50 to 400. The tribe who lives on the island are completely cut off from the rest of the world, and quite notoriously and understandably are very hostile to anyone who tries to visit their island. Travelling pretty much to the opposite side of the world, we arrive in this kind of banana-shaped looking island in Canada called Sable Island. When you think of islands and Canada, you most likely imagine barren, freezing cold, lifeless landscapes like what you'd see on Devon Island, the world's largest uninhabited island. Sable Island, however, doesn't really fit that description, as it's an island that's relatively green and has pristine white sand beaches. The unique part about the island is that there are 500 free-roaming horses that have essentially taken over. The official population of the island is 0, however at least 6 people do live there year-round, primarily meteorologists. This number can rise to as high as 50 during the summer months when scientific groups visit. The island sits around 300 kilometers east of Halifax, Nova Scotia, and has what is known as an oceanic climate. Winter gets pretty chilly on the island, which attracts many thousands of seals to seek refuge on, giving us these incredible shots of them living in harmony with the feral horses. An island which is certainly colder than Sable is Spitsbergen, an island part of the Svalbard archipelago in the Arctic Ocean. The climate of this island is categorized as Arctic, with cold temperatures and very strong winds. In the winter, temperatures can drop to as low as -40 degrees Celsius. Now, what makes the island so special is that it is one of the northernmost inhabited places on Earth. It's found so far north that in summer it sees a midnight sun, meaning there is 24 hours of daylight for months on end. The wildlife of the island is also quite spectacular, seeing reindeer, polar bears, and elephant seals. However, there is one man-made structure that exceeds everything mentioned so far in terms of importance and uniqueness. It is the home to the Svalbard Seed Vault. The vault is essentially a secure storage facility built to hold a vast collection of seeds from around the world. This is basically to protect biodiversity and preserve plant species in case of a global disaster. But why was this island in particular chosen for the vault to be built on? Well, it's because it could be built deep within an Arctic mountain, giving natural refrigeration through permafrost. Its remote northern location also protects it from other risks such as political instability, war, and natural disasters. And finally, we have Eel Malk Island, on an island found in the country of Palau. Now, the island is truly spectacular, especially when viewed from above. The hundreds of rock formations covered in greenery gives us these incredible views. But that's not why the island has made today's video. It is in fact due to the lake that exists within the island. The lake is known as Jellyfish Lake. So due to isolation, the jellyfish that inhabit the lake have over time lost their ability to sting, meaning it is completely safe to jump into the water and swim amongst them. With no natural predators, the jellyfish's numbers have skyrocketed throughout time, meaning they absolutely dominate the lake. So there we have it, some interesting and sometimes quite bizarre islands from around the world. If you can think of any others, please do tell us about them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this sort of content, make sure to subscribe and like, and as always, thank you very much for watching.